Hello and welcome to a Midpoint Library Technology class. My name is Emily and today we'll be talking about the basics of Microsoft Excel. To start, what is Excel? If you've never used it before, it might be this very foreign software to you. But basically, it's a popular spreadsheet system that helps you to organize data into columns and rows. And all of that data in columns and rows and everything can be manipulated through formulas. And those formulas can help Excel to perform either mathematical functions or help you analyze the data or transform them into sort of charts and graphs, again, all to help you analyze any kind of data that you're trying to keep track of. On the more personal side of things, you could always use Excel to help you make a calendar, to help you with maybe a habit tracker. If you want to make lists or have a home budget, you can make calendars. There's lots of options that you can use Excel for, and we'll try to explore some of those options today. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a workbook. When you first open Excel, especially for the first time, you'll probably see a screen similar like this. It will have a few options for you here on the right. If you're interested in just a blank workbook, and that's what we can click on first, that will just give you a blank workbook with cells, columns and rows, etc. If you're interested to look into any other options, there are some templates that you can get. So for example, you could put in a search for a template, maybe habit tracker. See if anything comes up. Maybe just tracker. Okay, so we have some options here of different things. Let's try in personal. Oh, here we go. If you're preparing for a wedding, they have a template for a wedding budget tracker. If you're wanting to keep an eye on your credit card usage, or if you're maybe doing a mileage tracker, they have some templates that you can just use and help you get started with whatever information you're trying to keep track of. They also have a weekly schedule. Again, just some fun templates that you can play around with. But in our case, we're just going to open up a blank workbook. And this is usually the first page that you'll see. It'll be a blank workbook with these things called cells. These are the little boxes. And the columns A through Z to etc. It actually can go on for quite a while. It'll start doubling up on the letters, depending on how much information you need to add. And then the rows are labeled numerically, 1 through however many. A workbook essentially is like a file, in that workbook is to file is to workbook. It's essentially the same thing. When you create a new workbook in Excel, that's basically your file. But within a workbook, you'll have sheets, which are identified especially by these tabs here at the bottom. So you'll see this one has sheets 1. Next one, this one we have labeled. So you can actually label your sheets. If I right click on it, I can hit rename, and I could maybe do example 1 or page 1. And I hit enter, and that renames the tab for that particular sheet. If I want to maybe insert a sheet, so let's see, I have all these sheets. I have profits, I have a budget sheet, I have customers, I have employees, I have charts. So lots of stuff that we'll talk about today, types of sheets that you might use. You could use them for anything, but maybe as an example, these are some ones that you might see typically used in Excel. But let's say I want to add another sheet. I'll right click on it, and when I right click on those tabs at the bottom, it gives me this menu. And I want to insert a sheet in between sheets that I already have listed here. So it'll ask me if I want to do anything any of these options. In this case, I just want a simple worksheet, so I'm just going to keep that selected on worksheet and click OK. So now it's put in a worksheet in between my first one, example 1, and profits. Now there's sheet 1 again. I can right click on it. I can rename it. I can rename it sheet number 2. We can go back and rename this one sheet number 1. So again, you can play with the titles for each of these to help you organize them. You can grab them and you can actually move them back and forth. So I'm just clicking on the one I want. A little icon appears next to it, and that shows me where, as I move my mouse back and forth, where that tab will end up. So I click on it, I'm holding down my left click, and I'm just moving across to move it around. Another thing you can do is if at the after pivot table here, there's a triple dots period, kind of more options, but then next to that is a plus sign for a new sheet. Boop, boop. So if I go back, whoops. Yeah, so it added sheet 2 again. We'll rename this to be number 3. It added it at the end, and if I keep clicking the plus sign, it'll keep adding more of these additional pages. So however many you'll need, those are a couple ways you can do it. You can either insert it or you can add them to the end of your workbook. But again, all of these pages will all be in this one file. So right now this file is called 01 examples. So all of these pages will be in this one workbook, and when I close or save the file, I can find all of these different pages under examples, 01 examples. Now these examples that I got today, I actually found under one of the training tools that we have on. Right now we're using lynda.com at the time of recording, but coming soon these videos will be switching to its parent company, LinkedIn Learning. You'll be able to access these videos through LinkedIn just as you were with lynda.com. And just to give you an example, this is what it looks like. This one I found was called Excel 2019 Essential Training. They have, in Lynda, you can search for lots of videos, and so if you want more tips than what we're going to cover here, again, we're just going to go over some of the basics. They have lots and lots of great videos with lots and lots of great teachers and tutorials, and in them, they have exercise files. So I selected Excel 2019 Essential Training, and they had some exercise files, and you can download all of the files that they're going to go over with us today. And he goes in, his name is Dennis Taylor. He was a really good instructor, and he goes into a lot of details, both in this video, and then he expands into even more detail the further information you might need depending on what you're needing or the information you want to get for Excel. But he gave us lots of examples, including some of the ones you're going to see here today. So check those videos out for sure. They were really helpful, very informative, and in this video as well as in those, you can always pause and rewind if you get confused on something that we're going over. So I just wanted to give that quick little reference. Right now, where at time of recording, they're there, but that you can check them out in LinkedIn Learning, Excel 2019 Essential Training. Some other things is if you want some more examples just to play with, I just did a simple Google search and I found lots of different pages where you can get some free examples to just so you don't have to make up data. But if you want to be able to play around with it and practice, there are lots of free samples out there. Another great tool for reference, if you go to Microsoft's own support, they have some good training either videos and or pages. They give you information on just getting started, using their formulas and functions, to formatting their data. You can even type in some questions. So there are lots of ways to answer any questions that you might have about Excel. Even when you're in Excel on its own, they also have this wonderful little help bar up here if you want to try something. So let's say that I want to insert a table and I just forget how to do it. It will give me, I'll type in whatever, either keywords or question, and it will help me by showing what tools or functions might be what I'm looking for. And if not, you can keep going further down, and there's a couple of ways that you can get further help. So help, insert a table. And Excel will pop up a help tab. Right now on this version we're using 2016. 16 and 19 there's a few minor updates, but they're pretty similar. So again, it will give you some basic help on how to do whatever it is you're searching for. And if that's not enough, we'll try it again. We'll go to Insert Table. There's also Smart Lookup, which helps give you some insights into a particular topic. And these will actually be web search references to the topic that you've searched for. So if it's not within the program itself, it'll help you get there to information about it online. So the next thing you want to do, especially before you really get into a project too thoroughly, just so that you don't lose any work that you're working on, is you want to save your workbook. Save it under a title that you might that you'll be able to find later as you're working along to go back to it. So to save your work, you'll want to go up to the tabs along here to File. And there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The first time you save a document, you want to do Save As. This helps you find a place to save it as well as give it a title. So right now I'm going to save it on this PC. If I double click on it, it opens up a dialog box so that I can sort of navigate exactly where I want to save this. So let's say I want to just save it in Documents. My Excel project. So I've given it a title, a file name. You can also choose the type of file you save it under. Now with Excel, if you are working, your basic Excel workbook will work with any current versions, but perhaps you might be working with someone who has an older version, or maybe you want to send it as a PDF so that they get the information but they can't strictly edit it, they just can see it. They also have Excel versions 97 through 2003. Again, this might change some features or some things like maybe a font or something in your worksheet, but at the very least they will get the data. Even if it's not exactly the same format that you have created, you know, how it looks or whatever. But typically you can just keep it at Excel workbook and it'll work on any current version of Excel. So we've chosen a place to save it. We'll click Save. So now I've renamed this, and I'll be able to, as I go along, in this top section, which is called the Quick Access Toolbar, that's these little icons here at the top. There's one that looks like your classic floppy disk. Back in the day, that's how we saved our data before we had flash drives in the cloud. We had the floppy disk. Now the eternal symbol for when you want to save something. So now I've saved it, I've given it a name and a place on my computer. Now for any future editing, anytime I change something, I can just click the Save button and it will save my project to that point. So now that we have it saved, we can edit our project and add things as we want to go along. So the first thing that we will look at is just your basic how to move around in Excel. You'll have your columns A, B, C, etc., and you'll have your rows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Each box between the column and the row is called a cell. And the green box, as I'm moving around, I'm just using my arrow keys, up, down, right, left, and each time I move to a cell, I'm tapping those keys in the direction I want to go. Another way that you can move across, especially if you're typing information, you can hit the tab key each time that you want to enter information. And then I can go back with either the arrow key, or if I hold down Shift and hit Tab, that will also take me back. Simple Tab key to go forward, hold Shift and press Tab to go back. Going up, I can use my arrow keys, but if I want to go down, I can hit Enter as well, and that will also take me down. If I hold Shift and hit Enter, it will take me back up. So again, it's whatever you're comfortable with when you're doing, when you're working on a project. For some people, as they're typing, having that simple short key feature just helps their workflow. But if it's easier for you to move with the arrow keys, or if it's just easier for you to move with your mouse, these are all options that you have to move around your spreadsheet. There are a lot of shortcuts in Microsoft Excel that can be helpful, especially the more you use Excel. Sometimes you'll find that certain shortcuts are very helpful. Some shortcuts you may never use, but you might accidentally stumble upon them. So it's always good to sort of know that they exist. I did a Google search I just went strictly, especially Google search for Microsoft Excel keyboard shortcuts. And it gives from their website, it gives you a list of the different shortcuts that they have available in Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, or even if you're using the web-based Outlook, maybe Outlook 365. That's their web version. So there are several shortcuts that you can use. So many, lots. And again, some of them you may use frequently. Some of them you may not be interested. It's just as easy to click around where you are. But I just wanted to point out that if you are interested and you want to learn them all, this is one place where you can find them all sort of listed together for you. Within Excel, the program itself, a lot of times if you hover over something, it'll tell you, oops, my program has frozen. So we have our worksheet and we have our columns and our rows. Along the top here, we have the what's called the Quick Access Toolbar, where we saved. Below that, we have our basic tabs of File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, and then our search bar. Some big ones that you'll be using a lot and going back and forth frequently, definitely the Home tab, possibly Insert, definitely Formulas, especially in Excel. They list a lot of their formulas that you can find and help program. You don't have to memorize everything. They're all sort of listed in here. They also, another tab that is very useful here is Data, which just as its name, it will help you with any sort of organization or structure of your data as you've entered it in. So again, we have our tabs along here, and in each tab there's the ribbon menu. under each tab, which gives you all of your different choices. Typically in Microsoft, you have your Home tab, which has things like the clipboard, font options, alignments, in this case number, which is important in Excel because how we enter in a number, the format of, let's see, if I hover over that, it will help give me a description again. Boop, boop. Yeah, if you hover over the corner options, it'll quickly give you a sort of, this is what this is this what you're looking for? If I click on that button, it will give me sort of an expanded option of those sections within the ribbon. So this is a big one in Excel where you are formatting the cells in particular. And you might want the cells to have a general format, which means nothing specific. You might want them to have a numerical format in which you use where the decimal place, negatives, positives, etc. might be important. And you can adjust how they are represented automatically using these features. They also have a currency feature which helps put a dollar sign and decimal point for your currency values. They'll have accounting, time, date. These two are also very popular options. If you use percentages, fractions, there's also a scientific category or simple text. You can specialize one or even customize, and it gives you lots of different options. So however you want to do it for whatever your needs are, for under number, the number option, right click on the little icon here in the corner, and you'll get this full dialog box about format cells. It also gives you an options for alignment within the cell, the font, border, if you want to make it a particular color, etc. Another thing that you might want to do or have a little control over is how far away, either zoomed in or zoomed out from the data sheet that you're looking at. In this case, we have our standard format, which shows us A through T and 1 through approximately 22, depending on the size of your window. But down here in the corner, you have zoom options for your sheet. Again, just so that you can move in and out. So I'm zooming out, it makes the cells much smaller. I hit the plus sign, it zooms in, and it can make them much bigger. So you'll notice I'm zooming in, I'm at 170%. The cells are rather big, but that doesn't change the format or size of them when I print them out. This is just a tool that will help you to view your document, to view your sheet as you're going along. So just to play around with moving around in the cells, we're going to start with a small example. I'm going to put a couple of months. Oops, I know the arrangement of the months. January and February, and maybe along. I did that in columns B and C. In column A, I'm going to put years. 2014, 2015. Now I've typed in a set of words, letters, characters, and I've typed in numerical characters. You'll notice that when I typed them in, they automatically moved to either the left or the right side of a cell. For any time that you type something that is an alphabetical character, it'll usually align automatically to the left unless you force it to otherwise. So for instance, if I click on this and I click on the alignment section up here in the ribbon, and I'll click on the right, forcing it to go onto the right. But typically, when you're entering in any data, if you use a letter, it'll appear like this. If you use a number, it'll appear on the right. And the reason that this is somewhat helpful is, let's say I write 120, but I accidentally hit the letter O instead of the number 0. Notice how when I do that, it didn't move. And while there are numbers in the cell, it ended on a letter or there is a letter within it. So it's sort of a way, a countermeasure almost, to say, hey, just so you know, this is not a number if you meant to write a number. So when I write the number, it automatically puts that number to the right. So it's just sort of a little helpful tool that will help you figure out, like, oh wait, I meant to do something. I made an error in my cell. I made an error typing in my data. And there are two ways that you can fix this. You can either highlight the box and just hit delete, and that'll delete the content, and you can just retype it. Or you can click on the cell, and you can go up to the formula bar and delete the one character that is incorrect, and you can type it so that it is properly entered in. So now that I've adjusted it, it automatically jumps to the correct alignment side for numbers. So just get rid of those. Okay. Another feature that you have when you're entering data, especially a lot of times you might be doing months of a year, days of a week, etc., a series of things. So when it's a series of either date or time or even quarters. So let's say I'm doing quarter 1. And you can also click within the cell to edit a typo or a mistype. But you can highlight. Here, we'll move this. Actually, we'll come back to that. We'll type it down here. But you can type in the series. So in this case, it's January and February. I highlight by dragging my green box to cover the two cells, B2 and C2, and I can pull them across. And as I'm going along, you might see that there's a small dialog box next to my cursor that changes as I go along. When I release it, it automatically fills in January through October, because in this case that's how, if I zoom out, I can probably do more. It'll go up to December. So that's a full year. I can do the same thing with numbers in this column, but in this case I'm going down and I'm copying A3 and A4. In this case, it accidentally replaced it. Now if I have that where I accidentally do something, you can do one of two things. You can hit the shortcut key Control Z to undo, or in your quick access there is also the button you can click on with your mouse, Undo Autofill. So I corrected my mistake that had just happened. Most functions you can use that feature if you make a sudden mistake. You can always go back and correct it. No. So I want to. Okay, so you want to select these two, and from the bottom corner you'll see a small green box, green square, and we will pull it down and we can fill in a series of years automatically. So again, it's just a quick way to fill in data, especially when you know I'm doing a series of months or years. Maybe you're doing time, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., etc. So I have a set. Whoops, I accidentally grabbed it. I have a set, and I'm just extending it. Now, when it comes to time, there is an option that you can fill the series, but you can customize it so that it can be represented how, in this case, they've got it on military time. I can click on time, and then it will format it into maybe a thing with hours, minutes, seconds, as well as AM or PM. But if you like military time, you could also do military time. There are lots of different ways that you can customize it. If you click on the number and then the format, again, you can, here they have under custom for time, they give you examples of what it will look like. Right now it's on hours and minutes. We could go to hours and minutes AM, PM, click OK, and that will change my time with representing it with maybe standard formats, and then also giving me my AM and my PM. You'll notice there are some that are showing up as pound signs. The data is still there. It's just that because the cell is not wide enough, it just makes a generic symbol to show that there's not enough space as the cell, how wide the cell is for it to be represented. And this might even be that just because we're zoomed in too much. So again, the data isn't affected. It's just our view of our field of vision is too far away or too close or something. So first you could play with your zooms, and the next thing you could try is playing with the width of your column. You can manually shape your columns, the size of them, by pulling them left or right. To do that, you'll just click on the edge. Usually it's just whatever edge you want to pull it from. You could do it from either one. But usually when you pull it from the right side, that's what will change the width. The left side usually won't do anything to, like for instance, column N, it doesn't do anything to it. To change the width of N, I have to go over onto the right side of N. So that's how you enter in your basic data into cells. We'll continue on in the next video for some basic examples of Excel and how to use it. So please check out our next video, and definitely check out more extended videos on our resources under research databases on our website. Hope to see you in the next video, and have a great day.